The Bank of Canada is hinting that housing affordability could become part of their mandate along with inflation. So what on earth would this mean for the housing market?
It'll be painful.
I mean, I'm not really sure. It depends how it becomes part of their framework. But Bank of Canada's McClem says housing affordability to become more of a focus in mandate review. He came out with this in Mexico City at some central bank soiree that they have going on. But basically, he said housing is a big part of the consumer price index in Canada. So the cost of housing affects inflation. Therefore, it's worth examining how monetary policy affects housing sector dynamics and how best to factor housing affordability into our focus on overall price stability. So would that be good for housing long term, or would that be bad for housing long term? Well, I suppose it depends on how you think about it. I really don't know what they would do in order to incorporate this into their mandate, because they couldn't just target home prices. I mean, they could target certain points of the CPI, but if housing is already forming part of the CPI as they outlined, then why on earth would they need this additional mandate? So Canada's central bank goes through the renewal process of its mandate with the federal government every 5 years, and it's due to happen in 2026. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens there. And now I just want to show you what's happened over time, because this chart has been making the rounds on X, and it's basically married and own a home by 30 years old in Canada, and how this has just gone downhill over time. So 2020, it was around 15%, and back in 1960, it was around 58%. And you can see how this has just gone down in pretty much a straight line just over time. And if you obviously looked at wealth inequality as well, you would see that the gap there has gone exactly the same way as this chart as well. It's very interesting and obviously sad as well, because when you think of stability in terms of your country, when people can't aspire to do these things like own a home and have a family, I mean, it's just a sad, depressing place. And obviously that leads to political instability. It leads to socio-economic instability as well. It's just going to mean Canada is going to become more and more a less stable country, which it already is. And then you've got, never mind the mortgage cliff, this is the debt Canadians are really struggling with. 1.4 million Canadians missed a credit payment in the second quarter, and we'll get on to just a hilarious article in a minute, because you're not going to believe what one of the big banks said about credit when it comes to newcomers, because I just thought, oh my God, I can't believe I'm hearing these sort of things, and how their risk departments actually let these people say these things is just completely unbelievable. But in Canada, when it comes to credit, anything is impossible. So we continue to see a growing divide between mortgage and non-mortgage consumers, and continued financial strain among younger Canadians who are facing a slower job market and rising costs. Canadians under 36 appear to be facing the most financial difficulties. The delinquency rate for this group jumped almost 20% from a year ago, and the average non-mortgage debt rose to $14,304. This demographic is currently reporting some of the highest delinquency levels for both credit cards and auto loans. Equifax says spending levels have increased among those without a mortgage, while homeowners spend less on their credit cards. So it's very interesting, and it just shows that obviously these people are living more on credit. They can't afford the rent, and they're not paying for all these different things like credit cards, auto loans. So how long until they stop paying their rent as well? I mean, we know that that's already happening. There's been a rise in evictions in places like Mississauga and Toronto, as we know. I'm guessing that this is just going to continue. It's going to bleed more into renters defaulting on their rent, which will bleed more into homeowners defaulting on their mortgage.
As they're coming up for renewal, we are seeing missed payments starting to rise, not only on the mortgage itself, but also in terms of things like the non-mortgage debt, the credit cards, those sorts of things.
At the moment, people are just putting everything on credit. They're not paying those credit cards off, and basically it's just kicking the can down down the road, essentially, with the financial aid of credit. I mean, it's just not a good situation when you consider where the economic outlook is right now. Locked out of opportunity. 59% of new Canadians say credit barriers are holding back their future. I mean, this is just completely insane. So according to a new TD Bank survey, 59% of new Canadians who have applied for credit believe they would have a better living experience if they had improved access. So basically what they're saying is we need more debt and then we're going to have a better living experience in Canada. I mean, when do you think that that is going to be a good thing? I mean, these are the most risky type of borrowers anyway. And then this comes from someone at TD Bank. For newcomers beginning their lives in Canada, getting off to a strong financial start can be incredibly challenging without access to the credit they need. And that's because Canada is a very expensive country, and these people are coming from places which are way less expensive, where they rely less on debt. And Canada is a debt slavery country. So in order to get on, you need to be in debt to one of these big banks, and it starts as soon as you get to Canada, folks. I mean, as soon as you get in, you need the credit card, you need the line of credit, because you are going to be fucked when it comes to being tossed out into that depression. And you know, we've seen the videos of supposedly people just taking out those lines of credit and fucking off. So I think there's a huge risk there, because you've got a lot of these new people. I mean, they're the riskiest people because they might just fucking leave. Most of these people are only going to Canada to earn more money, and when they get there and realize how expensive it is, most of them are thinking, holy shit, I'm going to go back, because we've had surveys come out and lots of these people are considering leaving and have left and are leaving, as we're probably going to see over 1 million of these people will have left. And that means there'll be like 3 million, 4 million that are in Canada and they don't even have work status anymore, because it's something like 4.9 million that was reported back in January that were due to leave with permits expiring. So, I mean, it's just absolutely insane. And then they're finally saying it. It's finally hitting the mainstream media now. Renting versus buying. Is renting for life really that bad? Well, it depends on the situation and the context, doesn't it? And to be honest, people don't even realize that when they're taking out a mortgage, they're taking out a load of debt and they don't even know it. So you've got to first think about the amount of appreciation people would need just to break even if we're talking about building long-term wealth here. Because if you could save money and invest that difference, you can often just make out way better than somebody who buys a house and is coping with real inflation, because all their costs will go up with real inflation, not the fucking CPI. And guess what? Their mortgage amount, well, that is tied to inflation as well. If inflation is going to be high over the next 30 years, interest rates aren't going to be low and rock bottom, are they? So that means they're going to be paying even more to the bank. So just to show you this and illustrate, if you take a loan, $600,000 over 30 years at a 4% interest rate, right, you're going to come out paying over $1 million for that house that was $600,000. So think about it. With all the realtor fees and everything else, you're going to need this house to pretty much double in value just to break even over 30 years. So that means you're going to need the appreciation to be 100%, 33.33% every decade. So, I mean, that is a massive amount, even when you think of a housing bubble. And a lot of people say renting is dead money. Well, take a listen to this. Total interest paid over that period will be $431,000. I mean, that is dead money right there that people are paying. And it's not like in most Canadian cities, the rent is costing you more than buying a house. It's the complete opposite. If you rent, you're actually gaining more money. You can often rent for way less than the person is paying for their mortgage and their property taxes. And that's part of the reason why there's no point in really buying a house. Because yeah, if renting was much more expensive than buying, then maybe it's best to start looking at buying, because even if that sours and you decide you want to go back to renting, then you can go and rent it out and you're not at a major loss like most of these people are in Canada. And that's really what people should be thinking about, is the financial aspects of this instead of the emotional ones, like, oh, I want to own a home. I just want to own a home. I just want to be a homeowner. And then they get to own their home and then they're just complaining about how expensive expensive it is, because guess what? It is not the utopia that people make it out to be. So I find it very interesting. Obviously, it's a completely different situation if you're buying cash versus investing that money. But if you're using a massive amount of leverage to do so, you have to take into account the massive amount of interest that you're going to pay over that period. And most people don't have a fucking clue about this. They don't even know that they're going to be paying over $1 million for their $600,000 home. I mean, I've seen stories from you guys of people who've bought houses in places like Calgary and Edmonton, sold them for the same price 10 years later, and they think they're making out okay. I mean, think about the interest that they paid over that period of time. Think about all the maintenance that they've done, and think about all the fees that they had to pay to sell it. Plus, they have to be ahead of inflation as well. And then just quickly, I want to show you this. Canada's tech job market has gone from boom to bust in the last 5 years. This data is coming from Indeed. So the research from job posting site Indeed says August openings in the sector posted on its platform were down 19% from 2020 levels. I mean, this is just absolutely crazy. So this shows how AI is disrupting the tech industry right now. Obviously, AI is creating a massive amount of opportunities as well, but it's also leading to a massive amount of job losses. No doubt there's going to be a huge, obviously, transition period in this, and AI could actually very well be the black swan event and the elephant in the room that people aren't looking at. Indeed says that the fall was likely caused by either market adjusting after a pandemic boom in hiring or recent artificial intelligence advances that have reduced tech firms' interest in expanding their workforces. Guys, I want to hear from you in the comments below. What do you think about renting? Obviously, there's a huge stigma with renting, and I want to hear from you in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video, I'd highly recommend checking out this video here. If you're looking for a VPN, you want to support the channel, there's an affiliate link in the description below, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.